In our previous lesson, we created an articulated person, and we did that by creating holes as spheres as well as solids, and the hole was just slightly larger than the actual solid. So we built it inside of the actual socket. We're going to today use parts within TinkerCAD, and we're going to create our own person. So first thing we want to do is I want to change your settings to be metric. So let's go down to settings here. Let's change this from inches, from imperial to metric. And let's leave this scale from 1 to 1 millimeters. Now what this actually means, scale 1 to 1 millimeters, when I close this out, it means that every little square on this workplane is a millimeter. I can change that and make this grid smaller, okay, or I can make it larger. We also have our snap grid, which is 1 millimeter. So I'm going to drag out a cube here. Let me zoom in. And just to review, what that means is when I drag my object around, it will essentially snap to those squares, which makes it that it moves 1 millimeter. I can change that. I can make it a little more precise and a little more detailed. Let's say I do half steps, half of a millimeter. It didn't change my grid. That's my scale. That's under settings. But what it does do is if I click on this, and let's say I move it to the right, watch what happens. It goes a half step. Okay? I go down half step. So you can change it to do some half steps on the snap grid. I wouldn't recommend going much smaller. Just because you're probably going to want to make sure that you have edges lined up, and the difference between half of a millimeter is not a whole lot when we're designing what we're doing today anyway. If I click on the object here, you can see I'm at 1/10 millimeter, which means 10 steps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 is the movement there. I'm going to switch this back to half of a millimeter. So today you're going to be using some parts built within TinkerCAD to build a person, animal. Doesn't really matter to me what you're creating, but if we're printing today, you need to have some of these connectors in your builds. That way we can get comfortable using those. So this is not just simply a free build of building whatever it is that you would like. Let's start with your body. If you want to use a cube, that's fine. Ultimately, we're going to make sure that this whole thing is 10 millimeters tall. Okay, we can also use a cylinder or any other shape for that matter over here. You actually can use this. This is something that we haven't touched on yet. Let me delete my square here and let me drag this out. So this is scribble. And what scribble means is I can draw, let's say I want to draw a body. Let's say I make it look like, like the shape of a peanut. Close enough. Not art class. All right, and I let go. It'll show up here as a preview. Okay, let's say I want to either erase it or I want to even just fill it in even more. We're just making one shape. Give me just a second. Bear with me. I'm trying to do this with the mouse. And almost there. Come on, Mr. Hale. Almost. Finally. All right, let go. And you can see my preview has my little body built. Oh, one last piece. There we go. Once I'm done drawing this individual piece, I can hit done. And there it is. Great. That's what I drew. In order to play with the parts that we're going to be using today, we are going to go to, under this menu, we're going to go to Hardware. Under Hardware, there's a separate menu called Connectors. And Connectors is where we're going to find all the parts that we're going to be using today to build our person. Now, you might notice if I were to have, let's say, this arm here. Let me drag this over so you can see. And how these are designed is these will actually flex open a little bit and snap into place. So unlike yesterday, we don't need to build these inside of each other. Let me duplicate this to explain what I mean. We don't need to build it like this. In fact, I'm going to encourage you not to do that, because if we're not lined up completely accurately, and let's say exaggerated, we're like this is going to print together and fuse together on the printer. So anywhere that we have a socket, I'm going to want you to print it separately. Now we can merge things, okay? Let's say that I'm going to, let's resize this guy, my body. Do not resize your sockets. I'll explain that here shortly. Do not resize your sockets. Just resize the other shapes. The reason is this ball is designed to fit inside of that socket. And if you resize this and make it either too large or too small, or change any of that, it's not going to connect together. Okay, so let's do this. In fact, let me move this guy out of here. Let me show you something we can do. Let's grab this ball socket. I'm going to rotate it. Okay, about there. We don't have to be precise. Cool, there we go. All right, so now this arm, so that's a shoulder. This would be his biceps. This little bicep part is going to snap in here when you're done printing it. Let's just move it out here for now and just build it separately. Let's duplicate this. Duplicate. Let me show you something else pretty neat. We haven't touched on this yet. I have this. Let's say that I want to flip it exactly the same angle. That's what this guy's for. Mirror. Let's mirror it this way. Mirror. Look, so now it's exactly the other direction. Great. And here's my other arm. So there's my bicep. Cool. And now if I want to put another arm, in fact, if I wanted to make it, let's say make his arm shorter, there's actually a shorter one. So do not resize these. You have to grab the shapes that you have available. So there's a small and medium. Where's the large one? There it is. Okay, so here are your 3 different lengths that we can do. So keep that in mind as you start building this out. For this one though, let me delete these. Let's make his bicep and forearm the same size. Grab this, bring it down. Grab this, duplicate, bring it down. Okay, so this is his elbow, right where the sockets fit together. And we can make hands if you want to. Or we can just like snap something else into this. Or if you like that, that's fine too. So we are going to be building out the rest of our little guy. Let's make his... Let's do something else this way. Let's build his... let's grab this connector. Okay, so there's a little connector. Let's rotate this. Typing in these numbers is much more accurate than trying to drag it. Alright, so let's go. Let's snap that there. Let's duplicate this and put it over here too. Let's mirror this so it's flipped in case there's any differences. There is a little bit of a difference. Looks like there's a support. Whoop, let me back up. Looks like there's a support built on this. Okay. This is not the proper height. And why that happened was when I rotated it, it came off the workplane. So let's bring this back down to the workplane. Let's make sure that says 0 right there. Click on this arrow, 0. There we go. Okay, so those are that's the bottom of his, that's like his hips. Let's rotate this. This doesn't have to be perfect. You know what? I want it to be rotated this way also. Let's just play with this for a little bit. See what happens here. Ah, that's a no-no. Do not resize that. Undo. Resizing means our sockets won't fit right. Duplicate. Drag it over. You get the idea. Okay? So we're going to build a little guy here. Let's keep all of our joints separated. You can also, let me show you something else. This is super fun. Let's go down to creatures and characters. If you would like, we can put certain things on our person. So we have some faces here, okay? Not a handful, or not a lot of faces, but we can make a sphere and we could put little eyeballs on it. Or not a sphere, well, I guess you could use a sphere. I was thinking more of a circle. We could put our little eyeballs on it. Make sure that everything, though, is on the work plane. an issue that we ended up having on creating our articulated person was before we saved it, we didn't double check to make sure that everything was on the work plane. Looky here, Mr. Hale. That's a perfect example. Do you see it? Look at that. When we rotated it, we're below the work plane. What will end up happening when we export this is everything is going to be exported, and it's going to have the lowest item be on the work plane, which means these are all going to be hovering pieces. Okay, let me fix this then. Good thing I checked. All right, grab this. We can either drag it up or down, or there we go. We're at 0. Or just to be 100% sure, make this a 0. Great. Something to think about though. Do you see these supports? I might want to reconsider rotating it, because these, I said the supports, these legs are going to need supports underneath them to build that we're going to have to crack away. And we can do that, but it's going to build supports. Okay? We can put a little head on them. You get the idea. Okay? There are, let's see what else we got. Accessories. I'm going to give him some ice cream, I guess. Right? Maybe. Why not? Let's put ice cream in his hand. I don't know how it's going to work. We can try it, though. Let's make it so that way it is like in his hand and built into his hand. Sure. I saw one on here as a football helmet. We can do that, too. But your goal is to create a little articulated person. I am going to resize these down when I receive them to be 4 inches by 4 inches. Okay, so the reason I don't want you, that's in his elbow. Come on, Mr. Hale. There we go. All right. The reason why I'm going to resize them down is because I don't want you to change the size of any of these. If we change all of it together, it'll work. But otherwise, we have to make sure that everything is changed proportional. So create your little person. We need to find a way to identify him or her, though. So if you could put something on their shirt right here, on their body, words or something that can identify this person. That way when I'm printing them and passing them out, I'm aware of what ones belong to who. Okay, so that is your project for today. You're going to create a little articulated human, reminder, that is under hardware and then connectors. Okay, let's see what we can build. Good luck.